Well, the lead planner and executor of 9/11, as you know, was given safe harbor in Qatar a couple years before he led the attack on the United States. The FBI was on his trail. This was under Clinton. The FBI was on his trail. He's put up in an apartment by one of the inbreds in the royal family. He's on the run because he's a known terrorist. And the FBI gets there a day or two too late because he's tipped off by the Qatari government and he escapes, free to plot 9/11. How do we do business with a country like this? I would say now for 2 decades, or what would Lincoln say? 103 years ago, 23 years ago. I've been telling you about Marxism, Islamism, and how they've come together. It's reached a pinnacle now. It's in our face. It's not under the radar. It's not in the closet. These people are proudly trying to destroy America. Our colleges and universities have indoctrinated, brainwashed, have trained a whole bunch of young people to hate America for a whole variety of reasons. And they've given them things to glom onto, ideologies to glom onto. And this is being funded by we, the American taxpayer. It's also being funded by Qatar and Iran still, and communist China, and terrorist groups like Hamas. Students for Justice in Palestine is directly tied to Hamas, CAIR, the Council on American Islamic Relations. They put out press releases. We're the biggest civil rights group for Muslims. Nobody voted for them. And of course, as you know, if you've listened to this program, they were founded in the Marriott Hotel right next to the Philadelphia International Airport. And we know that because the FBI wiretapped the place. So there's CAIR out there. There's all other groups that have been spawned by the Muslim Brotherhood, by Qatar, by other countries. This Qatar thing really sticks in my craw. The idea that we have politicians on both sides of the aisle, in the executive branch and in the legislative branch, who are bought and paid for by these inbreds, these monarchs, is outrageous. Do you know, in 2022, when they had the World Soccer Games going on there, tens of thousands of workers died. These are foreign workers. This is a country that's population of like 300,000, and they have to have like 1 million workers there to keep their economy going. And they bring them in from Nepal and India, Pakistan, some of these other places, and they enslave these people. They treat them like dirt. And at some point during the summer, in the desert, they reach 125 degrees, something like that. All these stories, you can Google it, or duck it. All these stories out there about how many people die. Tens of thousands of them die. And they just bury them, move on. Some of the people are there for temporary periods of time, but they don't let them go. This is a horrendous regime, a horrendous regime. I don't care about crypto. I don't care about economic summits. I don't care about the planes. This is a lousy, rotten regime. And they've got money in our system. They've got money in our colleges and universities. They've got money in the museum that's been built for our Medal of Honor winners. And this is what they do. They put money here and they use the propaganda and so forth to try and ameliorate their terrorism and terrorism supporting. What am I talking about? Well, the lead planner and executor of 9/11, as you know, was given safe harbor in Qatar a couple years before he led the attack on the United States. The FBI was on his trail. This was under Clinton. The FBI was on his trail. He's put up in an apartment by one of the inbreds in the royal family. He's on the run because he's a known terrorist. And the FBI gets there a day or two too late because he's tipped off by the Qatari government and he escapes, free to plot 9/11. How do we do business with a country like this? Hamas received most of its money from Qatar. Hamas's leaders had safe haven in Qatar. By the way, now they're in Turkey. Now they're in Turkey, where they're organizing and plotting all the time. They're billionaires. Billionaires. Meanwhile, Qatar, we've got Republican senators defending them, Republican House members defending them. The inbreds come to the United States. They're treated, you know, like they're royalty, which they are. It's a fake country. Qatar is a fake country. It was created by probably the British or the Ottomans. It's a nothing. It's a fake country like most of the countries there are, like Saudi Arabia. That's a pretend country. And the others, UAE, Bahrain, we'll give this to this one and this to this. They gave them to tribes, Bedouin tribes, and monarchies. But in any event, the funding for Students for Justice in Palestine, this front group, and they're on over 300 campi in the United States of America, comes from the enemy. A lot of the funding for these entities come from the enemy. And they also come from billionaires and dark money who are Democrats, who support the Democrat Party. Like this Mandami, we now learned, thanks to the New York Post, that his mother, who put out these horrible, quote-unquote, documentaries about Israel and the Jews and so forth, just drenching in hate. The Qataris paid for them. She was on Qatar's payroll. And now the Qataris are backing Mandami for mayor. The sister of the head inbred of Qatar, part of the royal family, obviously, she's been promoting Mandami on all her social media and so forth and so on, all these organizations that are front groups for Qatar. It's really shocking to me, stunning, that the Democrat Party at least doesn't have the guts to come out and oppose him, but no, a lot of them embrace him. So they put on what they call the People's Conference for Palestine in Detroit, Michigan. Why Detroit? Because Michigan has become ground zero. There's several ground zeros, but the ground zero for the Islamists, And so Rashida Tlaib is the Congress idiot from Detroit. She took John Conyers' seat. Now, John Conyers was bad enough, but he wasn't an Islamist. He was a radical liberal, and he wasn't a Marxist. Just a bad left-wing dude, you know, but an old-time left-wing Democrat. Tlaib is second generation in this country. Her parents came here. She's Palestinian. Her parents came here from the territories. Just like Omar, she's first generation. She came here, really rescued, from Somalia, and they come here with their indoctrination. They come here with their hateful culture for the United States and Jews and really the West. And this open border stuff has brought a lot of these people into the country, but some of these people are homegrown through the sort of the Marxist ideology. But if you read my book on power, and I really hope you get it, and I really hope you read it, it's very, very important. I have an entire section on this. And it's happening in front of your eyes, and people say, what's happened here? What's happening? It's right in the book, or I discuss it on Blaze, I discuss it on my radio program, I discuss it on Fox. But if you need to see it with your own two eyes, it's in the book, and I explain it in the book, what's taking place, and it's here. Now, you're about to watch some shocking clips. Again, these people aren't underground. They are out there trying to overthrow the United States of America. They are aligned with terrorist organizations. Some of them receive support from terrorist organizations or terrorist states right in front of our faces. Right in front of our faces. And we have a problem. As much as Donald Trump wants to deal with this, and is like no other president can or would, we have these federal judges. We have all this sort of enshrined institutional rot that protects them and defends them. These people should have their asses kicked out of the country. If they're citizens like Tlaib and she's a member of Congress, she should be expelled. She should be expelled for her ties to these organizations and so forth. They're preaching the overthrow of the United States. You know, 50, 60 years ago, that's exactly what would have happened, but we've progressed so much. No, we're regressing. So let's take a listen to her. She is nasty. She is vile. She believes in violence. Just a real piece of work. People's Conference for Palestine, August 29th. Go.
They thought they could kill us, rape us, imprison us, violently uproot us from our olive tree farms, starve our children to death, and we would disappear. Well, guess what? Now we're in Congress, and we're every corner of the United States. Y'all, they just don't get it. They just don't get it.
By the way, this garb she's wearing, what do they call Katifa? It was Arafat who started this. Arafat, who was obviously a leading terrorist, and he was born in Egypt, by the way, leading this movement for Palestine, as they call it. And the Mufti, which I've talked about here in years past, they took on this nomenclature of Palestinian later under Arafat, but these are Arabs. And there's different types of Arabs, different sects, SECTS, of Arabs. And these are Arabs that the vast majority of whom lived in what is today Jordan, not quote-unquote the West Bank, Judea and Samaria, Jordan proper. And when they were dividing up the Middle East, and they created Jordan, they wanted a relatively friendly leader, so they created this monarchy. King Hussein's father was the king. Now, King Hussein the Younger, who's the king now, his wife is Palestinian, but he's not. Jordan is 70% Palestinian, 70%. Again, a nomenclature that's created. It's a certain Arab sect, but we have to play along so people understand what I'm talking about. What happened? Well, Arafat and the Palestinians sought to overthrow this king's father. And what did that king's father do? He started slaughtering them and imprisoning them. That's what he did. And he forced a lot of them out of the country into what is Israel. It's never discussed. The so-called West Bank was never the West Bank of Jordan. It was always Judea and Samaria. In Judea and Samaria is incorporated into Israel, parts of it. It all should be incorporated into Israel. The very birth of Judaism took place in a town called Shiloh, spelled like Shiloh, but pronounced Shiloh. In that town, the original tribes, God's tribes, came together to form the Jewish faith with Samuel and others. Right there in that specific location. The Palestinians call it occupied territory, that the Jews are occupying that territory. This is over 4,000 years ago. The birth of Judaism, right there. Like the birth of Christianity in Bethlehem is now 80% quote-unquote Palestinian. It's their territory, don't you know? Excuse me. Judaism came well before Christianity. Christianity came well before Islam. Jesus was born in Bethlehem. How is that Palestinian territory? Any more than Shiloh is Palestinian territory. How about this one, the town of Hebron? There's 85 Jewish families left in this town. 85, that's it. Abraham, the patriarchs are buried in Hebron. Right there. And so when you go to where they're buried, they had to build this building which separates the Muslims from the Jews and the Christians. So when the Muslims come in, they see one side of the burial area, and the Jews and the Christians see the other to keep them from each other. And so, I believe it was in the 1920s or 30s, the Muslims, aka what we call the Palestinians today, slaughtered a whole bunch of Jewish families there, pushed them out of the area, and now the IDF has to encircle the town of Hebron to protect the 85 Jewish families. Did you guys know that? They had to protect the 85 Jewish families. Well, the patriarchs are buried right there in the Bible. They call that occupied territory too, Palestinians. Of course, they call the entirety of the Holy Land occupied territory. That's what they mean by free Palestine. Free Palestine. It's taken on a life of its own. The Western press is all in. The United Nations is all in. We should leave the United Nations. We should kick their ass out of the country. We should take that land, scrap the building, put a new building there, and create a new international organization of free countries. I've been talking about this, I think, since I was 15 years old. Why? Why do we allow Iran and Syria and these other countries to sit with us to make these determinations? And by the way, the UN spends most of its time voting on resolutions against Israel. Is that really what we want? So let's listen to the rest of this. Tlaib, go.
They will never truly comprehend, Ya Jama'ah, even after 7 decades, that we aren't going anywhere. We are just getting started.
7 decades. She's talking about the state of Israel. and this idea that the Jews came in from all over the world and took it away from the Palestinians who were indigenous to this area. It's interesting, we really ought to start history when history starts, don't you think?
For all this and much more, sign up for Levin TV.